15 years. That's how long I put my head down and pushed. No shortcuts, no handouts, just steel-toed boots, early mornings, and the kind of hours that make your back feel twice your age. I didn't complain. I figured that's what a man does. You find a woman worth building with, you build. Brick by damn brick. Vanessa and I met in college, Cal Poly, junior year. I was halfway through a double-loaded schedule in civil engineering and living off caffeine and canned chili. She was studying education, always put together, always smiling. We met at a study group I almost didn't show up to. She laughed at my sarcastic jokes and said I had kind eyes. I didn't know what that meant, but it stuck with me. We dated through graduation. Got married in a small ceremony with just enough food and barely enough room. I remember my old man slipping me $200 in cash before the ceremony. Said it was all he had left from his last roofing job. I told him to keep it. He shoved it into my coat pocket anyway. Start your life, he said. So I did. Vanessa wanted to stay home after Zoe was born, and I agreed. She was a great mom back then. Attentive, patient, always reading Zoe some book about butterflies or fairy princesses. We made it work on one income. I took extra shifts, doubled up projects, learned how to eat dinner in the driver's seat of my truck between job sites. It wasn't glamorous, but the bills got paid. By the time Zone hit 5th grade, we had a house in the suburbs, nothing flashy, just solid, clean, with a yard I mowed every Sunday like clockwork. I handled the mortgage, the insurance, the school tuition, the oil changes, the broken gutters, the leaking dishwasher, the taxes. Vanessa ran the house, took Zoe to dance classes, and made dinner most nights. We had our roles. I thought they worked. That was the deal, unspoken but understood. I'd shoulder the weight. They'd have stability. Vanessa didn't have to clock in at 7 a.m. or crawl through traffic just to smile through meetings. She had time for the PDA, yoga, home decor, whatever she wanted. Zoe never had to worry about free lunch slips or used shoes. She got braces on time, violin lessons she never stuck with, and birthday parties that got bigger every year. People think money buys luxury. It doesn't. It buys freedom for the people who aren't earning it. I didn't resent it. That's important to say. I wasn't bitter, not then. Providing gave me purpose. I liked knowing my wife could drive a nice SUV and not worry about the gas. I liked knowing my kid could go to college debt-free. That was the plan. Get through the grind, and later, maybe in my 50s, I'd slow down. Travel, fish more, maybe finally fix up that old Chevelle sitting in storage. I just had to make it to the finish line. And I thought we were in it together. Every late night, every double shift, every busted knuckle. I thought it meant something. All those years spent in steel beams, dirt lots, and concrete slabs were building more than a house. They were building a family. That's what made it all hit so damn hard later. When I found out, I wasn't the man holding it all together. I was just the scaffolding, useful until the job was done. But that moment hadn't come yet. Not in those days. Back then, I still kissed Vanessa on the forehead before I left each morning. Still texted Zoe when she aced a test. Still believed that hard work, done right, done quietly, was enough to keep the people you love by your side. I see now that I mistook comfort for loyalty, and loyalty for love. There's a difference. Back then, I didn't know, but I was about to. It started with a red smear on a coffee mug. Not her usual pink gloss. The one I bought her last Christmas because I remembered the name, Peony Bloom. This was darker, bolder, almost daring. I noticed it one morning when I got home late from an inspection out in Bakersfield. She was already asleep, but the kitchen smelled like wine and vanilla candles, and her mug sat in the sink with lipstick that didn't match anything she used to wear. I wiped it clean and let it go. You learn to do that after years of pushing through stress. Let things go. Write it off as a random choice or a mood swing. Vanessa was allowed to change up her style, I told myself. Hell, maybe she deserved it after dealing with Zoe's teen tantrums and me working like a ghost in the walls. But then came the spending. Target bags turned into Nordstrom. Groceries into boutique candles and leather planners. I'd see packages at the door when I pulled in, boxes with brand names I'd never heard of, apps that sent push alerts about premium upgrades. She used to be careful with money, clipped coupons even. Now it was like she had something to prove. To someone. And the errands. Always the errands. Running out for a few things, she'd say, keys already in hand. For hours later, she'd walk through the door with a single bag and a new excuse. Traffic. Lost track of time. A friend needed to talk. I'd look at her. Hair done, eyeliner precise, blouse tucked just right, and something in my gut would tighten. Zoe started shifting around that time too. Eye rolls came easier. Her phone was practically glued to her hand, and when she wasn't texting, she was locked in her room with the door closed and music so loud I could hear the bass downstairs. That wasn't unusual for a teenager, but what was new was the attitude. I'd ask how school was and get a fine without eye contact. I'd mention college applications, and she'd sigh like I'd ruined her weekend. She used to hug me when I walked in. Now it was like I didn't exist unless I asked her to clean her room. Still, I chalked it up to the phase. Girls her age pulling away, Vanessa hitting a midlife stride. Maybe. I wasn't the type to make drama out of small things. My job demanded logic, not feelings. I ran numbers, contracts, schedules, not assumptions. Besides, I had other things on my plate. The VP spot had finally opened up after years of dead ends, and I was neck-deep in bidding documents and cross-state project pitches. It wasn't just about the money, it was about finally being able to breathe. If I landed it, Zoe's college was a lock. Retirement wouldn't be a fantasy. I could even cut my hours. Maybe build that workbench in the garage I always talked about. So I focused, pushed harder. I told myself Vanessa was just tired. Maybe she needed more of my time. Maybe Zoe was just mimicking the stress around her. I promised myself we'd take a family trip after the promotion. Just the three of us, like the old days. I even started pricing tickets to Lake Tahoe. But the feeling stayed. That weight in my gut, the one you don't talk about because it makes you sound insecure. Because men like me don't snoop or pry. We don't check phones or track mileage. We work. We provide. We trust. Even when something smells off. And then there was the perfume. Vanessa never wore much. Just a little rose mist she kept on the dresser. One day she walked in wearing something sharp. Spicy. Something that lingered on her coat long after she hung it by the door. When I asked if it was new, she smiled and said, "Oh, I got a free sample. Nice, right?" It wasn't the answer. It was how fast it came. She already had the lie ready. That night I lay in bed next to her while she scrolled through Pinterest, and I stared at the ceiling thinking about every hour I'd put in for this family. Every missed dinner. I skipped vacation. Every moment I said next time to Zoe when she asked me to come to a recital or movie night. And for the first time in a long time I felt stupid. Not because of anything I could prove, but because I knew something had changed, and I didn't want to admit it. I wasn't supposed to be home. Migraine hit me around 11:15 that morning. Sharp, hot behind the eyes. I tried to tough it out, but after squinting through 2 project briefs and realizing I couldn't even read the damn specs, I told the site manager I needed a half day. He didn't argue. I looked like hell. The drive home was a blur. Just cool air blasting in my face and the hum of tires to keep me steady. I didn't text Vanessa. Figured I'd just crash on the couch, toss a blanket over my eyes, and be useless until dinner. I wasn't expecting company. I wasn't expecting laughter. But that's what I heard as I stepped inside. Laughter. Hers and Zoe's. Loud. Carefree. The kind of laughter you don't fake. I froze by the door, keys still in hand. I heard plates clink. Glasses. Then words I will never forget. I swear, if he asks one more time about the credit card bill, right? I told you he's just an ATM with legs. Well, not for long. Once I'm out of school, you're done. Me and Derek already talked about it. Just a few more months. My stomach turned. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. Zoe laughed again. Shrill, careless. God. Can you imagine the look on his face when he figures it out? He won't. He never has. My ears rang. I wasn't sure if it was the migraine or rage boiling up into my skull. I stepped back out the front door as quietly as I came. Sat in my truck. Didn't drive. Didn't move. Just sat there with the engine off, staring at the steering wheel, listening to the blood in my temples throb with each heartbeat. I felt cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver. The kind that makes your soul feel like concrete. Derek. So that was his name. I hadn't met him, but I knew of him. Some guy she'd mentioned once or twice, a friend from yoga or some PDA thing. Generic face in passing. Nothing to raise alarms. The kind of guy you'd walk past in a parking lot and forget 10 seconds later. And yet he'd been living in my blind spot. Probably sitting in my kitchen. Drinking from my mugs. Laughing with my daughter. I thought of every check I'd written. Every car payment. Every grocery run. Every new pair of sneakers Zoe didn't say thank you for. Every late night Vanessa spent doing the budget on her laptop. While I massaged the knots out of my own neck with a bottle of Advil and a hope that it would all be worth it. And this was the thanks. ATM with legs. I didn't rage. I didn't kick a trash can or punch the steering wheel. I didn't storm back in and make a scene. That's not who I am. Instead, I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed 2 words. It's over. Not the marriage. That had died already. I just hadn't buried it yet. What was over was the waiting, the hoping, the pretending. I'd been asleep at the wheel long enough. I started planning that very day. Called my buddy Jared, who'd gone through a nasty split 2 years back. Asked him for his lawyer's name. Told him I needed someone ruthless and fast. No questions asked. He texted me the contact info within minutes. I made the appointment before I even got out of the truck. When I finally walked back in that evening, I smiled. Told them traffic was bad. Took a couple Advil. Vanessa offered to reheat dinner, and I thanked her. That night, I kissed her goodnight on the cheek. Just like always. And as she turned out the light, I stared at the ceiling, thinking one thing. Let them keep laughing. Let them enjoy these last few days of comfort. Because the ATM was about to close. Permanently. By 9 a.m. the next day, I had a lawyer. His name was Barrett, former Marine, sharp jaw, voice like gravel. No small talk. No sympathy. Just direct questions and hard options. I liked him immediately. He listened to my story, scribbled a few notes, and leaned back. You've got leverage. But if you want to use it, you need to move now. So I did. First thing, finances. I opened a new personal checking account at a different bank and rerouted my paycheck. Changed the login credentials to everything: retirement, credit cards, insurance, investment accounts. She wouldn't know it yet, but her access had just expired. Next, I pulled 6 months' worth of bank statements. I highlighted every charge that didn't make sense. Dinners for 2 at fancy restaurants I'd never been to, spa days in the middle of the week, and Uber rides to locations nowhere near the grocery store. $30,000. That's how much she'd siphoned out of our accounts. Slowly, quietly, like a blood draw from a sleeping man. I called it theft. Barrett called it marital dissipation of assets. Either way, it was ammunition. I downloaded every receipt, every text message, every email confirmation. I built a folder labeled Vanessa Evidence, then backed it up to a thumb drive I kept in my glove box. I wasn't about to let this thing fall apart on a technicality. I also started documenting behavior, not just hers, Zoe's too. Her attitude, her comments, her access to cards she had no business using. I needed the court to understand this wasn't just a cheating wife, it was a coordinated betrayal. A slow bleed I had funded for years, and I played dumb. I came home every night, asked about her day, listened to her lie with that same painted-on smile. I nodded along when she talked about car troubles and grocery runs. I even offered to fix the brakes, knowing damn well she'd been using that car to drive to Derek's. Zoe was worse. She acted like I was invisible. Used my card to buy $180 worth of clothes from some influencer brand and rolled her eyes when I brought it up. It's not like you can't afford it, she said. She was right. I could afford it. But not anymore. Barrett walked me through the timeline. File the petition, serve the notice, freeze the credit, move out if needed. I wouldn't move. That house was mine. I'd paid for it, wired it, framed it, tiled the damn bathroom floor myself when the contractor bailed. She could take her designer mugs and yoga mats and sleep in a 2-bedroom rental with Derek. The key was patience. Calm. I couldn't tip my hand. So I kept showing up to work. Kept bringing home groceries. Kept smiling through dinner. But every night, After they went to sleep, I'd sit at the kitchen table, staring at spreadsheets and legal forms, sipping bourbon I didn't even enjoy, not because I needed comfort, because I needed control. I was done being the nice guy, the yes man, the piggy bank. I was going to take back my life one signed document at a time. Vanessa didn't know it yet, but she'd already lost. She just hadn't been served the paperwork. Yet, I picked Friday night for a reason. End of the week. Everyone is home. No distractions. I grilled steaks like I always did. Even bought Zoe that overpriced sparkling lemonade she liked. Vanessa lit the patio candles without asking. Picture-perfect family dinner, just like the ones I used to believe in. Halfway through the meal, I looked up from my plate and said, "I filed for divorce." Just like that. Fork halfway to Vanessa's mouth. Zoe mid-scroll on her phone. The silence was instant, pure, clean, like the quiet before a wrecking ball hits the wall. Vanessa blinked. "What?" "I said I filed," I repeated. "Monday morning. The paperwork is already moving." Zoe's phone dropped to the table. "Wait, what?" I set my fork down, wiped my mouth with the napkin, and looked Vanessa dead in the eye. "I heard everything. That morning I came home sick? Yeah. I was here. I heard the conversation between you two. The one where you called me. What was it? An ATM with legs." Zoe's face was drained of color. Vanessa's mouth opened, but nothing came out. "I know about Derek. I know about the 30 grand missing from our accounts. I know about your plan to leave once Zoe graduates." She finally found her voice. "David, No," I said, flat and final. Don't spin. Don't cry. Don't insult either of us with a fake apology." Zoe leaned forward, her voice high-pitched. "You were spying on us?" "No," I said. "I was living in my house, the house I paid for, the one I wired, roofed, and insured while you both laughed behind my back." Vanessa reached for my hand. I didn't flinch, but I didn't move toward her either. "We were going through a rough patch," she said, shifting tone. "You were always gone. We felt neglected." I let out the quietest laugh, dry, bitter, controlled. "Neglected?" I asked. "While you were buying spa packages with my money. While Zoe ran up $500 on a clothing app last month." Zoe opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "I have copies of everything," I said. "Receipts, texts, bank records. You'll both be served by Monday. Vanessa, you'll vacate the house once the temporary order goes through. Zoe, if you want to stay, you'll follow house rules and pay for your own expenses." Vanessa's face cracked. "You'd kick out your own daughter?" "No," I said. "I'm giving her a choice, one I was never given." Zoe looked at Vanessa, then at me. "Where are we even supposed to go?" "Derek's place, I assume, if he hasn't ghosted you already." Vanessa's jaw tightened. I hit a nerve. "Good. This isn't like you," she whispered. I met her eyes, steady. "You're right. This version of me doesn't beg. He doesn't forgive betrayal. He doesn't bankroll people who spit on his loyalty." Zoe's voice cracked. "Dad, I didn't mean." "You laughed," I said. "You mocked the man who sacrificed everything for you. That wasn't an accident. That was the character." Neither of them spoke after that. I finished my dinner in silence. When I stood to clear my plate, I looked down at both of them one last time. "I won't yell. I won't argue. I won't grovel. But I will never be used again." Then I walked inside. And for the first time in years, I felt like a man again. It didn't take long. By Wednesday, Vanessa's name was off every account, joint checking, credit cards, even the grocery store rewards. The legal freeze hit fast, and I made sure of it. She went to fill up her tank and called me when her card declined. I let it ring out. Then I turned off my phone for the rest of the day. Zoe was quieter, but I noticed she stopped ordering takeout. No more packages at the door. Her tone shifted fast when she realized Uber Eats wasn't magically funded anymore. She stormed out one morning yelling about me punishing her. I didn't respond. She wasn't looking for conversation, just an audience. Vanessa tried to reach out through my sister, claimed she was blindsided, cut off, and emotionally stranded. My sister laughed and sent me a screenshot of the text with a thumbs-up emoji. She'd always seen through Vanessa's act, just never said it outright. By the second week, I heard Derek had vanished. Vanessa had posted a vague quote on Facebook, something about trusting God during betrayal. Derek must have seen the writing on the wall. The money was gone. The fantasy had popped. He didn't sign up for real life, just the free wine, the secrecy, and the hotel rooms she paid for with my Amex. Zoe started losing friends. She didn't say it, but I noticed she was home more. The loud music stopped. Her door stayed cracked open. One of the girls she always posted selfies with dropped a comment under one of her Instagram photos. "Hope you're okay. We're all kinda confused." I didn't pry. Let the silence explain itself. Vanessa came by one afternoon while I was on the porch changing the oil in the mower. She looked tired, hair unwashed, no makeup. First time I'd seen her without mascara in years. She stood on the walkway like she didn't know whether to knock or just fall apart right there. "I just need to talk," she said. I stood, wiped my hands on a rag, and nodded toward the street. "You're trespassing. David, please." "You're not my wife anymore," I said. "You're a pending case number. Talk to your lawyer." She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just stared, like she was trying to recognize the man in front of her. I wasn't the man she used to lead around. That man had been buried somewhere between the last mortgage payment and the moment I heard them laugh about me in my own kitchen. She left without another word. Zoe tried a different tactic. She texted me one night around 10:45. Said she was sorry. Said she didn't mean what she said. That she was just trying to fit in with her mom. I read it. Locked the screen. Never replied. Regret is loud when the credit card is quiet. I wasn't being cruel. I was being clear. You don't get to break a man's back for 15 years and then cry when he stands up. Let them feel what it's like to be without me. Not out of vengeance, but for the sake of truth. People only understand value once they've been cut off from it. And I was done handing mine out for free. The court hearing was short. Barrett walked in with a binder thick enough to crush a rat, filled with statements, screenshots, and financials so clean they practically wrote the ruling themselves. Vanessa's lawyer tried to paint her as the victim, emotionally isolated, financially controlled, but the judge wasn't buying it, especially after the spending reports and screenshots of her texts with Derek were entered into evidence. By the end of it, the judge ordered a temporary occupancy ruling in my favor. Vanessa and Zoe had 30 days to vacate the property. She tried to object, said she had nowhere to go. The judge asked, what happened to the man she was planning to move in with? Vanessa didn't answer. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just shook Barrett's hand outside the courtroom and said, thanks. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, the house felt different. Not bigger, not warmer, just still, like it had been holding its breath for years and finally exhaled. Vanessa and Zoe got the news 2 days later. Barrett served the formal notice by courier, no room for misunderstanding. They waited until the final week. I watched from the living room window as they carried box after box to a borrowed SUV. Zoe made 3 trips with just clothes. Vanessa packed her books, her fake plants, her collection of self-care candles she never lit. Neither one looked up at the house. Neither asked for help. Zoe broke the silence first. She walked up to the porch while I stood behind the screen door, arms crossed. She didn't look angry, just hollow. Do you want me to say anything? I shook my head. Not if it's not real. She looked down, swallowed. You're different now. I nodded. So are you. She started to say something else, then turned and walked back to the car. Vanessa came last. She walked up slowly, like she was hoping I'd stop her, hoping I'd remember the good times, the early years, the promise of forever. She wore the same perfume from the kitchen, the one I noticed the day I knew everything had changed. I didn't expect it to end like this, she said. I opened the door just wide enough to say what needed to be said. You ended it. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She looked like she wanted to cry but didn't dare. Her pride wouldn't let her. I respected that in a strange way. Do you hate me? No, I said. I just don't care anymore. That hurt her more than any insult could have. She backed away, nodded once, and left. I stood in the doorway until the taillights turned the corner and disappeared. And then I closed the door. No tears, no triumph, just peace. I walked through the empty living room. The silence wasn't heavy. It was clean, uncluttered, like someone had finally scrubbed the residue off the walls. No perfume, no judgment, no debt, just me, the man who built this house, and now the man who would rebuild himself inside it. I didn't throw a party, didn't post online, didn't text friends, didn't drink myself into some symbolic toast about freedom. I just got up the next morning, brewed my coffee, walked through my quiet, empty house, and took a deep breath. And it felt real. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was mine. First thing I did was tear down the vision board Vanessa had glued to the kitchen wall. Quotes about abundance, tropical vacations she never saved for, pictures of designer bathrooms we'd never afford. I replaced it with a pegboard for tools, organized every wrench, screw, and clamp in the garage. Then I built a workbench with my bare hands. I took the guest room and turned it into a gym. Bought a squat rack, dumbbells, resistance bands. No more excuses. Every morning at 6 a.m., I lifted. Not for vanity, not for revenge, just to feel strong again. I adopted a dog from the shelter, old shepherd mix, gray around the muzzle. I named him Charlie. Didn't ask why he was there or what he'd lost. I just gave him a bed in the corner and took him on walks. He never judged, never lied, never asked for a new iPhone. Barrett sent the final settlement papers 3 weeks later. Vanessa got a small portion of the savings. No alimony, her affair killed that. Zoe was technically an adult, so no child support. She'd moved into a shared apartment with a friend from school. I didn't ask where. I didn't care. One night around 11, Zoe called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, quiet, shaky. Derek had ghosted them for good. Vanessa was really struggling. Zoe didn't ask for money, but the message smelled like a test balloon. I deleted it. You don't get to burn the bridge and then complain about the cold. 2 weeks after that, Vanessa came to the house. No makeup, hair pulled back, shoulders hunched like a schoolgirl caught cheating on a test. I don't have anyone else, she said. I opened the door just far enough to make my answer clear. One word, Vanessa. Her eyes searched mine. I didn't blink. No. I closed the door. She didn't knock again. Some nights I sit in the garage, the stereo playing old Springsteen or Seeger, a cold beer in hand, watching Charlie doze by the tool bench. I think about all the years I gave, the things I missed, the dinners I skipped, the weekends I worked through, all for people who looked at me and saw a wallet, not a man. But I don't carry hate. I carry clarity. And that's lighter than anger ever was. 6 months out, I don't feel angry anymore. Not because I've forgiven them. I haven't. Not even close. But because anger takes energy. And they're not worth a single ounce more of mine. I built a good life. A strong one. Paid for in sweat, sacrifice, and long nights spent staring at a ceiling wondering if the trade was worth it. For a long time, I thought it wasn't. Now I know better. It wasn't the work that failed. It was the people I gave it to. Vanessa and Zoe weren't broke when they left. Not financially, but the minute the faucet shut off, everything else cracked. The friendships, the fake stability, the illusion of independence. Turns out, when the money disappeared, so did the respect. I heard Zoe dropped out of her school program. She posted something vague online about reevaluating priorities. Translation, reality hit. Loans don't wait. Roommates don't cover your half when daddy's card stops working. Vanessa tried to get a part-time job at a wellness store. Lasted 2 weeks before quitting. Barrett keeps me updated. I don't ask him to. He just knows the type of man I am now. The kind that likes to know things without needing to react. A few weeks back, Zoe sent an email. Long, emotional. Talked about missing our movie nights. Said she didn't understand how deep things ran, and that she never meant to hurt me. I I read the whole thing, twice. Then I deleted it. Not out of spite, out of peace. I'm not interested in fake healing. I'm not interested in opening a door just because someone knocks with tears in their eyes. Zoe may grow. She may change. And maybe one day, years down the line, if she earns it, not asks for it, maybe we'll talk again. But not now. And Vanessa, that bridge is ash. No calls. No letters. No pop-ins. She knows better now. I know this version of me isn't soft and isn't begging to be loved. This version doesn't fund betrayal with a smile. I still go to work, still put in honest hours. But the weight's different now. The pressure's gone. The desperate need to provide for people who never saw me is gone. I put part of my bonus toward a solo trip to Montana. Rented a cabin, hiked with Charlie, sat by a fire that didn't need conversation. Silence is underrated. Tells you who you are when no one's around to perform for. This house is mine. Not just legally, but emotionally. Every wall echoes with discipline now. Not arguments. Every room is clean. Not cold, just honest. I keep a photo of Zoe at age 10 on my desk. Smiling in her soccer uniform, gap-toothed and radiant. That version of her loved me. That version I'd give anything for. The rest? That version grew up. Made choices. And choices carry weight. Just like mine did. I'll close with this. Men like me, we don't speak until we're certain. We don't act until we're sure. But when we do, it's final. I was their foundation. But I'm nobody's ATM anymore. And this wallet? It has locks.